And we're back here at the Grand Hotel, the Mackinac Policy Conference. I am joined by Dave Egner, President and CEO of the Wilson Foundation. Great to have you here with us.
Zoe, it's great to be here.
Oh, thanks. So you are someone that not only thinks so much about the future of Detroit, but you have a power, this ability to actually make some impact in the future of Detroit as well, right? What has this week's conversation about retaining, attracting talent, not just in the city, but in the state, meant to you in your work?
Oh, gosh. Well, the state's on a very interesting trajectory. If this study that was just done by Citizens Research Council and Alterum, if we do nothing, by 2050, our population of children age kids 0 to 17 will drop 6%. Our college age kids will drop 6%. Our prime working population will go up 2%. And our number of retirees 65 and older will go up 30%. So we've got to get talent into the state and into jobs that make sense. And if for nothing else, self-interest, I will be in the 65 plus category and I want help.
We were talking to Eric Lufer about the report yesterday. And like you said, a lot of the conversation is about population this week, but it's also about those demographics.
Right.
So what are we going to do, particularly in the city of Detroit, to get everyone to want to stay, but also to get that next generation in the city and put in roots?
I think first you got to look at what's been done. So Nicole Sherrod-Freeman did a marvelous job in running the jobs department. The lowest unemployment in the history of the city, or in the last 50 years of the city, is in place now because of the great work she did. There's so much more to do, and there's so many barriers to cross. So you can be overwhelmed by the barriers, so let's start with the positives. We're sitting with a lot of open jobs that we know what we have to do to train people to get into those jobs. So the community college system across the region is starting to work on that. The Wilson Foundation made a $20 million grant to 7 community colleges. Balmer made a $10 million grant to start to reverse engineer this job issue, preparing people for those jobs, how to create student success, how to work specifically in the mobility industry in that space. So that's going to be interesting to watch. And then if you shift to the harder things, I think Dr. Vidi's getting a handle on public schools. That's a tough job. And we've got to think very differently about how kids come in prepared for school, the work we're doing, but we seem to be making some good progress. It's going to be a decade to 2-decade-long process of turn. We're out of time. But the pressure and the anticipation, I think, will drive outputs in a way they didn't before.
Well, and that's my next question. We spoke with Superintendent Vidi yesterday about this same issue because we're all here, it feels like, again, talking about these issues. It feels to me that folks are starting to get it, right? That we're not just talking, but there's actually maybe some action for the next 362 days of the year until the next conference. Are you feeling that way?
Yeah, that's my greatest hope. The panel on workforce that I ran, it's the first time I've run panels on that topic for 20 years up here. It's the first time I really felt there was a common understanding of the problem and a common group and alignment around issues. So I think we've got more hope than we've had before. We've got to be impatient to get to outputs, but patient with people as we come together to trust each other. I think that's the key.
So the conference chair, Matt Elliott, one of the things that he's talking about is not just getting it, right, but then doing it, but then also having a decision about what do the measurables look like, right? Like what does success, that definition, look like? I'm curious, just from your standpoint, what would success look like and how do we measure it?
Oh, gosh, depends on the topic, right? There's so many in this space, but I'll come back to the community colleges. They have been measured on this kind of 6-year graduation rate. It's a good measurement, a good start. What if we could measure the placement rate of every kid that came through community college, whether they got the certificate or degree or not, and their retention rate afterwards in jobs? We're working to get that data with the state for the first time in history. That will drive a different set of outputs. And if you look at the K-12 space, it's going to be movement toward milestones. I mean, we have to put a set of metrics down across this entire system. But that can be done. We know what they are. We've seen the best models in the country. We're going to replicate them.
I know I hate to make you do this. We got about 30 seconds left before we go into the theater, but I'm curious, what would you like to see in Detroit in 10 years when we're talking about workforce and we're talking about population?
I would like to get back to a point to where Detroit's growing as a city, that the housing and the public space has become so attractive, people want to be there, and there's already jobs, and there's already job shortages, and that talent base from the very lowest level of talent to the very highest level of talent want to live and stay in Detroit.
Dave, I appreciate the time.
Always glad to be a lead-in for the governor.
We're going to go to the theater now and hear from Governor Gretchen Whitmer.